What if I told you that happiness is not something you can directly achieve? That the more you chase it, the more it escapes. Carl Jung believed that the key to a fulfilling life lies not in pursuing pleasure or avoiding suffering, but in something much deeper, finding and following your true purpose. But what does it really mean to have a purpose? And why is it so important for our psyche? For Jung, purpose is not just a goal we consciously choose. It is a call that arises from the depths of our being, from the unconscious. It is not simply about doing what we like, but about discovering who we really are and living in harmony with that inner truth. This brings us to an essential question. Why do so many people feel that their lives are meaningless? Why, despite success or comfort, do many experience an inexplicable emptiness? We live in an era in which we are told that happiness lies in material success, in social validation, in the accumulation of pleasurable experiences. But Jung warned that if we follow a path that is not aligned with our deep being, the unconscious will begin to show signs that something is not right. Anxiety, chronic dissatisfaction, depression. These are not just uncomfortable emotions. They are messages from the unconscious that push us to wake up. In his studies, Jung saw that many people who sought therapy were not sick in the medical sense, but spiritually lost. They didn't know who they were or what they were in this world for. And this is where his concept of individuation comes in. Jung described individuation as the process by which a person becomes what he or she really is. Not what society expects, not what the family imposes, but what your soul asks of you. And this is not an easy path. As children, we adopt the beliefs and values of our environment, building an identity based on what others consider acceptable. But as we grow, we begin to feel an inner restlessness, a desire for something more authentic. This is the first call of the unconscious, inviting us to discover our true purpose. Individuation involves confronting our shadow, the parts of ourselves that we have repressed. This is where many people get stuck, because facing the shadow means recognizing uncomfortable aspects of our personality. However, only by integrating those hidden parts can we find a purpose that is truly ours. One of the biggest obstacles on this journey is confusing purpose with ego desire. Many people seek purpose in fame, money, or status, thinking that will give them meaning. But Jung warned that when purpose is built on the basis of the ego and not the soul, sooner or later it collapses. The difference between an authentic purpose and a false purpose is that the former is born from a deep need of the being, while the latter is a reaction to society and its expectations. If you have ever felt that your life has no direction, that something is missing but you don't know what it is, your unconscious may be calling you to explore your true purpose. But a key question arises here. How can we hear that call? How do we differentiate between a passing desire and a true life mission? In the next part, we will explore the signals that the unconscious sends us and how to interpret the messages hidden in our dreams, emotions, and life patterns. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, have you ever felt like you're destined for something bigger, but you don't know exactly what it is? I would love to know your experience. If our purpose is not something we simply choose, but something that emerges from the depths of our being, then the key question is, how can we recognize it? Carl Jung left us clues about this mystery, showing us that the unconscious is always communicating with us. But most of the time, we don't know how to listen. Through dreams, intuitions, and repetitive patterns in our lives, our psyche sends us constant signals about the direction we should take. The problem is that we are so caught up in routine, in social expectations, and in the noise of the outside world that we ignore those signals until they become crises. Jung believed that dreams are the voice of the unconscious. Through them, our psyche speaks to us in symbols and metaphors. They are not always direct messages, but if we learn to analyze them, we can find clues about what our soul really needs. For example, if a person repeatedly dreams of being lost in an unknown city, it is possible that their unconscious is reflecting a feeling of lack of direction in their life. If someone dreams of an animal chasing them, they may be facing a repressed aspect of themselves that they need to integrate. But it's not just dreams that guide us. Jung also talked about synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that seem too perfect to be just chance. Have you ever thought about a person and they suddenly call you? Or have you found a book that answers just a question that was tormenting you? Jung believed that these connections were not coincidence, but rather manifestations of the unconscious trying to guide us. Another way our psyche shows us the way is through our emotions. Jung taught that anxiety and dissatisfaction are not just problems that we must eliminate, but signs that something within us is out of alignment. If every day you feel like something in your life doesn't fit, if a part of you longs for something more without knowing exactly what, that discomfort can be a call for internal exploration. Many times we look for distractions to silence that feeling: social media, meaningless entertainment, excessive work. But the solution is not to run away, but to listen. Have you ever felt like life puts you in the same situations over and over again? Relationships that end in the same way, jobs that leave you with the same emptiness, obstacles that seem to repeat themselves. Jung tells us that these patterns are not a coincidence. They are lessons not learned. If we keep facing the same problem, it is because there is something in our psyche that needs to be understood. The unconscious repeats the lessons to us until we integrate them and advance towards our true essence. For example, a person who always feels trapped in jobs they are not passionate about may be avoiding facing their true desire for independence or creativity. Someone who always attracts conflictive relationships could be projecting aspects of their own shadow onto others. This is where many people stop. Discovering our purpose involves facing our deepest fears. The fear of change, of failure, of rejection. The mind prefers the known, even if it does not make us happy, because the unknown represents a risk. Jung shows us that the path of individuation is not easy. It forces us to leave behind old masks, challenge imposed beliefs, and make difficult decisions. For this reason, many choose to ignore the call and stay in a life that does not satisfy them, but that is at least familiar to them. But there is a point in life where dissatisfaction becomes unbearable, where the person realizes that continuing to ignore their true path will only bring more emptiness. And it is at that moment when the transformation begins. What signals has your unconscious sent you? Have you experienced dreams or synchronicities that have made you question the direction of your life? Leave it in the comments. Why? Because fear enters the scene. The fear of failing, of losing stability, of being judged. Jung understood that fear is one of the main barriers to individuation, and that facing it is essential to discovering who we really are. The ego is that part of our psyche that identifies with what we know. It builds an image of ourselves based on what society has taught us. I am a lawyer. I am shy. I am a logical person. But what happens if our purpose goes against that image? The ego fears the unknown because it represents a threat to its identity. Therefore, when we feel the call to do something different, our mind automatically looks for excuses. It's not the right time. I don't have enough talent. It's too late to change. Jung shows us that these excuses are not real. They are ego defenses to avoid the fear of change. But if we want to find authentic purpose, we must be willing to challenge that inner voice that keeps us safe. Fear is not something we should eliminate completely. Jung said that fear can be a teacher if we learn to use it to our advantage. The key is not to let it control us. Accept fear instead of rejecting it. Instead of fighting the fear, observe it. What exactly are you afraid of? Is it failure, criticism, uncertainty? When we identify fear clearly, it loses some of its power. Take small risks. You don't have to change your life overnight, but you can do small experiments. If you feel that your purpose is in art, start creating in your free time. If you dream of a different life, research options without pressuring yourself to decide right away. Question limiting beliefs. Ask yourself, who told me I'm not capable of doing this? Many times our limitations come from childhood, from comments from authority figures that we continue to believe without questioning. Visualize the future without fear. Jung worked with active imagination, a technique to connect with the unconscious. A powerful exercise is to close your eyes and imagine what your life would be like if you weren't afraid. What would you do? How would you feel? This practice helps you begin to act from confidence instead of fear. As we overcome fear and begin to walk in our authentic direction, certain signs appear that indicate we are on the right path. You feel energy and enthusiasm. Although the effort is great, you feel genuine motivation for what you do. Unexpected opportunities appear. When you continue on your path, life seems to open doors for you in unexpected ways. You feel more connected to yourself. There is no longer an internal struggle between what you want and what you do. Obstacles don't stop you easily. Instead of giving up, you see them as part of the process. Jung spoke of transformation as a process that involves killing parts of our old identity. This does not mean that we lose who we are, but rather that we let go of what no longer serves us. Many avoid this process because it involves loss, losing the approval of others, losing the security of the known. But what is gained is much more valuable, a life with real meaning. Many people see purpose as a career, a talent, or an external goal. But Jung shows us that the true purpose is in individuation, in becoming the most authentic version of ourselves. It is not just a question of success or external recognition, but of psychological integration and connection with our deepest essence. Jung said that our psyche is divided into multiple parts, and one of the reasons we feel lost or directionless is because we have repressed or denied essential aspects of ourselves. When we are disconnected from our purpose, what really happens is that we are fragmented. Some parts of us have developed, while others have been ignored or repressed. And this generates a feeling of emptiness, as if something is missing in our lives without us knowing exactly what it is. To live with purpose, it is not enough to reflect on it. We must integrate it into our daily lives, in every decision and action. Here are some strategies to do it. Constant self-knowledge. Individuation is not a destiny, but an ongoing process. Jung recommended analyzing our dreams, observing our emotional reactions, and writing down our reflections to understand ourselves better every day. Ask yourself, what patterns repeat themselves in my life? What themes appear in my dreams? What emotions arise when I think about my future? Act consistent with the purpose. It is not enough to identify our purpose. We must live it. If we discover that our calling is teaching, are we sharing our knowledge? If we feel like we should explore our creativity, are we giving it real space in our lives? It is of no use to know our purpose if we do not take action in the right direction. Accept personal transformation. Following the purpose means changing. Some people will move away, new challenges will arise, and life will require us to step out of comfort. But each transformation brings us closer to who we really are. Accept uncertainty. We won't always know exactly where we're going, and that's okay. Jung taught us that life is a constant dialogue with the unconscious, and that the path is revealed little by little as we move forward. To find our purpose, we must be willing to let go of those versions of ourselves that no longer represent us. Jung spoke of the symbolic death of the old self as an inevitable process on the path of individuation. This does not mean that we should forget our past, but that we must learn to leave behind what no longer serves us. Sometimes this means letting go of limiting beliefs, relationships that hold us back, or even careers and lifestyles that take us away from our true selves. This is where many people feel fear, because leaving behind a known identity even if it doesn't make us happy, gives us a feeling of stability. But if we are not willing to let go, we will never be able to move towards something greater. Ask yourself, what aspects of my current identity no longer represent my true self? What parts of myself have I been ignoring or suppressing? What if I allowed myself to be completely authentic? Jung spoke of self as the final state of individuation. When we manage to integrate all the parts of our psyche and live from our total essence, it is here that we experience true inner peace, not because everything is easy, but because we are in harmony with who we really are. Many people seek happiness in superficial pleasures or external validation, but true happiness, according to Jung, arises when we live in alignment with our deepest purpose. Purpose not only benefits us, it also impacts the world. When a person lives with meaning, he or she becomes an inspiration to others. We have traveled a deep path, from understanding the importance of purpose, facing fear, integrating our repressed parts, and connecting with our true self. But there is a level beyond personal purpose, and that is the impact we leave on the world. Carl Jung not only spoke of individuation as an internal process, but as a phenomenon that affects the collective. When a person transforms, that transformation expands to their environment. This is where the final question arises. How can we use our purpose to transcend and leave a mark on the lives of others? Many people believe that purpose is only about their own happiness. But Jung shows us that true fulfillment comes when we put it in the service of something greater than ourselves. Individuation is not a selfish path. On the contrary, when we manage to integrate our psyche, we become more capable of contributing to the world in a meaningful way. Think about it like this. When a person lives in alignment with their purpose, they inevitably inspire others. Their energy changes, their way of acting impacts those around them, and without intending to, they begin to generate transformation in their community. For example, let's think about great figures in history. Jung himself dedicated his life to understanding the human mind, and his work continues to influence millions of people today. But you don't have to be a psychologist or a world leader to leave a legacy. Sometimes a simple conversation, an action, a project, or even an example of living authentically can make a difference in someone else's life. Through example. There is no need to make big speeches about the importance of purpose. Simply living by it already inspires others. When someone sees a person acting authentically, they are motivated to do the same. Through service, if you have a talent or knowledge, share it. It doesn't have to be something huge. It could be teaching someone what you know, writing about your experience, or simply supporting those who need guidance. Through creation, if your purpose is related to creativity, leave something that can inspire others in the future, a book, a work of art, an idea, something that transcends your physical existence. Through community, Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, an invisible network that connects us all. This means that when we join together with others who share similar values, our impact is multiplied. Look for people with whom you can build something bigger than yourself. Carl Jung said that purpose is not a fixed destination, but a path in constant evolution. There is no point where we can say, "I'm done." We are always growing, learning, and discovering new facets of our psyche. Therefore, I want to leave you with this final question. If you were not afraid, if nothing stopped you, if you completely trusted yourself, what would you be doing today to get closer to your purpose? Answer it honestly. Write it, meditate on it, share it in the comments if you wish. And most importantly, act accordingly. This journey of self-knowledge does not end here. Continue exploring this fascinating depth psychology focused on the unconscious, interpersonal relationships, and mental dynamics in our next video. If this content resonated with you, subscribe, like, and share your perspective in the comments. I would love to continue this conversation with you. See you in the next chapter of this transformation journey.